Hello, this is just a blatant advertising video for a new channel that I just created. It's called Waiter Manor. It is all about restaurant serving, so that has nothing to do with video games or anything. Stay on this channel if you want to hear my video game takes and debates and all that. But if you're interested in seeing, how I make a living, or if maybe you want some tips on how to be a good restaurant server, then I recommend checking out my new channel, Waiter Manor, right? Creative name, I know. What can I say? That's Waiter Manor on both TikTok and YouTube. It's mostly just short form content, just very small videos based on little tips that I like to give servers for right now. And I also plan on making server skits and stuff like that, server story time. I've been making these videos daily, so go check out the channel if you want to see more. But for the rest of this video, it's actually going to be a compilation of my first 10 server tip videos. So if you like what you see here for the rest of this video, then go check out the Waiter Manor channels, subscribe and follow on both TikTok and YouTube. I would really appreciate your support. So yeah, enjoy the compilation.
Are you a restaurant server who feels like you should be making much more than you actually are? Maybe you see how much money these other servers are making, and you just don't get why they can make so much more than you can. And you're like, you have the same position, it doesn't make any sense. Hell, some servers can afford to buy a whole house, support a family, they can do all this stuff and only work the weekends? Lucky for you, I just so happen to be one of those servers. Many people think that tips are just gained by pure luck, right? And it doesn't matter what kind of server you have, it really just depends on the person that's being served. And while there is some truth that some people just won't tip or some people will tip more than others, it's not the full story. Restaurant serving is a special job because you are your own boss in a way. You can control how much money you make by getting better at your job. I would know, because over the years of me serving and getting better at the job, I have quadrupled my average pay. And don't think that you don't have the personality for it either. Restaurant serving can really serve to make you a much more confident person. It certainly did for me. I was extremely introverted. So I hope that my tips and tricks will help you make more money and enjoy the job just a little bit more. One of the things that people hate the most is when they go to a restaurant and they feel like they've been forgotten about. This most often happens due to a late initial greet. If a table has been sitting there for 2 to 3 minutes and they just have no idea who their server is, or even if they have one, then they're gonna get mad. They're gonna feel like they've been forgotten about. When in reality, the server probably didn't forget. They're probably just very busy with other tables or haven't even had the chance to get to the table to see that they've been sat. The initial greet's very important because it really sets a standard for the rest of the dining experience going forward. And hell, I'll be honest, I've had tables that have to wait 2-3 minutes before I greet them. These situations happen, right? Servers can get busy. What matters is how you approach these situations. So I'm going out the kitchen, right? Gonna go deliver some food. I see that I got sat. I have no idea how long they've been sitting there. I've just been in the kitchen plating my food. So I go take a quick pit stop to that table and say, hey y'all, I'm gonna be right with you. I just gotta drop this off. It's typically better to do this while you're holding something so that way the table knows that you're busy. Suddenly, they don't feel forgotten about anymore. Using this simple trick, you will basically never have a negative greet. One of the most important things that I've learned as a restaurant server is it's good to have a personality. Nobody likes to have a robot server. At the end of the day, people go to a restaurant to have an experience, not to just eat. The server is what makes the experience special, right? It's what differentiates a restaurant experience from fast food. So while you're serving a table, maybe try to think about what you can do to make this experience more memorable for the table. So what can you do to make yourself stand out from the other servers that this table has had previously? Something I say to all my tables is that I make the best salads in the world. So whenever a table of mine asks for a salad, I say, oh, well, y'all are in luck because I make the best salads in the world. This is usually accompanied by the table laughing, and then we're just having a good time after that. I consider this the icebreaker, right? It's right after I take orders, everything is out of the way, and now we can just joke around and just have a good time. As a bonus, it also sneaks in the fact that, yes, I do make the salad. So that's telling the table an extra step that I'm going out of my way to do for them. It's good to make little catchphrases like this that you could repeat to every table. It makes you more memorable and more likely to be asked for in the future. Always show that you're trying as a restaurant server. Like if a table asks for a drink and you're just going, do we have that? I don't even know. Well, then you're just wasting time. Instead, you should be like, oh, I'm not sure if we have that. Let me go check for you. And yes, I know technically you're saying the same thing, but it's the way that you get across to the guest. It's important that the table knows that you're going to take care of them. You are going to take charge and get this figured out for them. The tables want to know that we know what we're talking about. But let's say a table wants to get a substitute in on their meal, but they're not sure if we actually have what they want. Let's say they want to substitute their mashed potatoes for asparagus, but you're not sure if we have asparagus. So instead of just saying, oh, I'm not sure if we have that, and then moving on from there, it is far better for you to say, oh, let me be right back. I'm going to go check if we have asparagus. Even if we don't have the asparagus, we are still letting that table know that, hey, we care about them. We want to do the substitute for them, even if we can't. By the end of the experience, they're going to notice, hey, this server really went out of their way and did everything professionally. They deserve a good tip. It's very easy to go to a restaurant and realize that you're kind of indecisive on what you want to eat. This will usually lead to the guests asking the server what they would recommend. That's why I always say that for the appetizers, the entrees, and the desserts, you should always have 2 things to recommend. Yes, not just 1, but 2. So let's say I'm serving a table, right, and I say that I recommend the spinach artichoke dip. But then the table says that they don't like spinach. This kind of makes it awkward for the table because they're not really getting what you're recommending. What would have been better is if I say, oh yeah, I personally recommend the spinach artichoke dip and the mozzarella sticks. That way the table says, oh, well, even though I don't like spinach, I can get the mozzarella sticks. That sounds pretty good. It's the same for the entree. In the same vein, it's usually good to recommend 2 different kinds of entrees. So like maybe 1 heavy dish and 1 light dish, or 2 different dishes with different kinds of meats. And for desserts, I always recommend going 1 chocolate and 1 non-chocolate recommendation. Again, if you do 2 chocolates, then people that don't like chocolate are just kind of out of luck. They might not even get dessert at that point. This should also be fairly obvious, but recommend stuff that you know that they'll like. You don't want blood on your hands. Enforcing rules as a server can be really tough. Our income is fully based on tips, so everything is based off of guest satisfaction. Sometimes this can mean wanting to bend the rules just so that way you are appeasing that table and leading to you getting a better tip. But when the problem really arises is when a table feels like they should be getting something when really they just shouldn't. As an example, let's say a restaurant has an unlimited soup policy. It is very common practice for a restaurant to not allow refills to go. However, as their server, you technically could bend the rules for a table and get them that refill to go. But the moment you do that is when that same table comes back the next time and asks the next server to get them that soup to go. And when the server says that they can't do that, that table is then going to be like, oh, well, the last server did that for me. That's quite literally the worst thing you want to hear as a server. So I actually have a little bit of a catchphrase whenever I do these sorts of things for a table. Oh, you want a soup to go? All right, I'll get that for you, but don't tell anybody, okay? It'll be our little secret. Not only does this tell the table that they're in the wrong, but it also shows that you're doing them a favor. One of the most disappointing things as a server is to go to your table and find out that it's just a group of teenagers. Most of the time, children just tend not to tip very well. However, I've actually found out that kids aren't just flat out jerks. 9 times out of 10, it's because the kid doesn't know any better that we don't get paid hourly. So when they see that they can leave a tip, they think it's just a bonus on top of what we already made. So whenever I have a younger table, I try to connect with that table, right? I try to act younger or whatever. I try to have fun with them so that at a point I can have casual conversation with them. Most high schoolers are actually thinking about getting part-time jobs already, so I usually like to work in the idea of being a server. Yeah, if y'all are looking for a good part-time job, then serving is a great way to do it. I've done a lot with this job. A lot of people get scared of doing the job because we don't get paid hourly, it's just through tips, but usually if you do a good enough job, then you'll make more than most hourly wages anyway. Whenever I bring this up to a group of teenagers, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna be like, wait, you don't get paid hourly? Those tables tend to tip the regular 20% after finding that out. Kids can tip well, they just need to be educated. Have you ever had a table that you just felt like, damn man, I wish I could just serve them over and over again? Well, you're in luck, because it really is not that difficult to get regulars as a restaurant server. If you really enjoyed serving a certain table or just got a really good tip from them, then there's a good chance that that table liked you as well. Sometimes getting that table to come back and ask for you is as simple as saying, hey, if you really like my service, then come back and ask for me next time at the host stand. The main issue arises when the table forgets that server's name. You need to be recognizable. You need to make sure that you do something that keeps them able to remember you. A server can be amazing at their job, but if they don't stand out, then those guests are not going to remember that server's name, as unfortunate as it may be. Oh yeah, if y'all guys like my service, then make sure to come back and ask for me, alright? So then usually I'll block my name tag and ask what my name is. Yeah, that's right, Connor. That's what you gotta say to the host stand next time. Don't let me see y'all at anybody else's table now. This is just a nice and easy way to get the table to remember your name. It's easier to remember from that rather than just the initial greet. I also recommend letting them know what days you work so that way they know what days you'll be there. Leave a comment and let me know how you try to get regulars. Have you ever gone up to a table and realized, ooh, this table does not speak the same language as me? This does not instantly make this table worse, however. Even though you might not be able to talk and have a regular conversation with the table, you could definitely still be a good server to them. And this is extremely relevant if your restaurant actually has a wide majority of people that come in that speak a specific language. For example, at the restaurant that I work at, a good 15 to 20% of all the guests don't even speak English, they speak Spanish. When I started off as a server, I knew very little Spanish, so I kind of had to do the little point technique, like, this, and it'd be like little awkward conversations like that. But I slowly kept trying avidly to learn more and more Spanish, so that way I could communicate with my guests easier. Now, I'm not saying that a good server needs to be bilingual by any means, but it is good to learn specific things that can get you through the entire serving experience. Hell, I've gotten to a point nowadays where I speak the stuff that I know very well to a point where I actually sound like I'm fluent, even though I'm not. I just have an inbuilt script of what I should be saying to the table. I only got to this point because I struggled through my tables and honestly failed a lot. I'm sure there were lots of times where I just sounded like a dumb white guy, but Honestly, my tables really enjoyed the fact that I was avidly trying to learn the language that they're speaking. This actually worked in my favor because now a good portion of my regulars don't even speak English. It can definitely be a struggle to learn a language that you don't know, even if it's just the restaurant stuff. All that struggle was worth it, however, because now I'm basically fluent, at least in terms of my job, not so much my real life. Always give 100% of your service to whatever table you serve. I know a lot of servers that the moment they see a specific kind of table that they think won't tip them well, they will instantly not try as hard for that specific table. Maybe it's a one top, maybe it's a group of teenagers. Hell, maybe they complain a crap ton. Because as long as you keep giving your 100%, there is always a possibility that you are misjudging that table. Just as an example, about a week ago, I just had this one top. You know, many people don't like one tops, right? The bill is small, so the average tip percent is really low. She just got off work. She came in late, right before closing. She complained about a ton of stuff, and she was legitimately mad. There was only one thing that she was not mad about: her service. I'm so sorry you didn't like your entree, ma'am. Oh, you didn't like your drink either? That's absolutely fine. I'm gonna get you a new one. I highly recommend this as a substitute. I made sure to keep everything professional and treated her just like I would any other table. So at the end, when we paid the bill, I apologized for all the issues that she had. She said it had nothing to do with me, her service was incredible, and tipped me $44. What's the hardest part about a big table? Because for me, it's always how they split the checks. Let's say you're serving a 15 top, likely with another server. You have to go all over the place for, we have that person over there and we have this person over here. You definitely do not want to have to deal with all that. So what I like to do for big tables is the moment I greet myself and say, hello, my name is Connor, I'm going to be y'all server for today. Can I know how we're going to be splitting the checks today? Then usually the table will be like, we have these 3 over here and those 2 over there. Okay, so if y'all don't mind, I'm just going to take orders by the check just to make it a little bit easier on us. Okay, so I take the first person's check, I put a little 1 by it. They got 2 waters and then they got a sweet tea. All right, separate it for check number 2. And let's say they got a Coke and a Dr. Pepper. And then that's 2 separate checks right there. If ahead of time you split the check like this, then the entire time you know what's going on, and you don't have to worry about splitting the check at the end. I can't tell you how many servers that I've split tables with, and then by the end, we have to end up getting a bunch of meals comped because we don't know what item is going on what check. By making sure it's all separated and organized right at the beginning, you no longer have to worry about the checks being complicated at the end.